Hi. Well, what I'm going to do this semester is make sure that you have enough time to do the things that you love to do. I love to hike, so I want to use Canvas efficiently and as easy as possible for my students and myself. So I'm going to show you some tricks. And then you too can also go hiking with your best friends. All right, here's my two best friends today. All right, each week we'll have a new tutorial and I think it'll help. All right, thank you.
Okay, here we are. We're in our course. Now, normally you'd be working in your live course because you're getting ready for the semester. So I'm going to show you a few things that can help with success for your students and to give you more time to do the things that you love to do. First of all, you'll have a menu on the left as you see, and you have full control over that menu. Now, what usually happens every semester is I lock down some menu items for you, but you can change those by going to the settings and then over here to navigation. And a lot of times, some of these items we don't really need in our course menu, and then it just becomes too long of a laundry list for our students, and they'll be clicking on things that you aren't going to be using. So you can come back here and you can check things out. And say, for example, you didn't need Google Drive, you can bring it down by dragging and dropping it to the panel below. You can reorder these items as you like. And then when you're done, come down here and click on Save. That way it holds in place your menu. And if you want to take a quick look, remember Student View? You can click on that and then this is what your students are going to see. Now this is in Student View, so once I leave that Student View, you'll notice that there are more items that you can access as an instructor. Your students will not be able to view or click on unless you have allowed them through the navigation settings. So here is what your menu could look like for your course. And remember, this is going to help your students. For example, we're going to explore how to create a welcoming homepage that you can actually use announcements on. And then your syllabus, and then people is an area where your students can get to know who's in the class. And then also grades are very important. And remember online tutoring. Online tutoring is available for many of our subjects. And also, it is available for students that aren't necessarily needing it in your class, but they can access NetTutor through your class if they needed to. Okay, so let's get started. Remember that some of these items will be visible to you so you can develop and create activities, and at the same time they will not be available to students. Remember, you have that control in the settings area down below. All right, so the first thing, we'll save the best for last, and I want to show you the syllabus tool. Now, some of our instructors don't like the syllabus tool because once they start building their grade book and their assignments and their activities, this course summary shows the date and the details. And it's something that's built in to Canvas and we can't change right now. But I still like it, and it gives the students a heads up about what's next, what's due, what's coming up. And the items that will be visible are the ones that have upcoming due dates. Now, over here, you're going to click on Edit, and that way you have this rich text box editor. And there's several ways that you can actually link to your syllabus. Some of our instructors like to copy and paste their syllabus into this text box area. Just make a note that the formatting may change and you may have to work with that a little bit. Now, another way for you to do that is if you could come over here to this panel over here on the right hand side and you click on Files. You can type in, here is the syllabus, instructions, and print it out for your convenience. All right, then whatever you want to be linked, you're going to have to make sure you highlight. So you could come over here and highlight this whole little phrase here. Here is the syllabus. So it's highlighted. And then you're going to come up here to choose File, and you're going to look, of course, for that syllabus that you want. And then you're going to select Open, and you'll see that it's listed here. Later on, you can create files folders in your files area. I will show you that in another little tutorial. But once you have that, click on Upload, and notice that this highlights in yellow. That means it is linked to your syllabus, and that's where you can actually link other documents throughout these rich text box areas. But that's just one way for the syllabus. And then you're going to click on Update Syllabus, and you'll see that here. Now, what's really cool about this is that once you refresh the page, you'll see two little icons. So students could actually preview the document or view in a new window. So let's see what happens when I click on Preview the document. It actually appears inside of this frame. And then if I click in View in New Window, it's going to actually download. So students could download their syllabus and then print it out. A nice little feature about Canvas whenever we attach or connect a file. All right, so there's your syllabus, and I'll go back to it by clicking on the Syllabus Tool in your course menu, and then this is what the students will see. Now, again, as we start to build our grade book, you'll see the dates and details of these items appear here. So we'll come back in a few minutes and check that out. I do want to say before I move on that this is probably one of the most practical ways to have the students access your syllabus. And the reason is because they have a choice to view it in the window or to download it. All right, next item here is the announcements. So this is pretty cool. There's no announcements here right now. It's very simple to click on the plus sign announcement. And again, you have the rich text editor. And some of the features here are, of course, you can have an attachment. And then options. So you can delay posting. So if I click on the delay posting option, you notice there's a date calendar that appears. So I could predate these announcements and just have them automatically appear for your students. Now, this announcement area also allows students to post and reply. So you may not want that option. You may not want enable podcast feed. You may not want allow liking. So I wouldn't worry about these items unless you want to delve into how they work. But for the most part, it's going to be very simple. You're going to have a title, and then you are going to have your text. And then you simply click on Save. Now, if I don't have a delay posting, it's going to appear right away. If I do have a delay posting, oh, nice little flag here. It does let me know there is no message and it is required. So I'm going to click on Save again. So that means I've delayed this announcement until January 8th at 12 a.m. Now, another really important feature is if you want your students to be able to see the announcements not only in your course but also in their email, remember to encourage them to go over here to their account, notifications, and then simply go to the announcement area and make sure that it's checked to send notify me right away to the email address. So I really encourage you to have your students use the notifications. All right, so I think you'll like the announcements. If you want those announcements to appear above the home page, you can go to Settings, and then under the Course Details tab, you'll just scroll down and you'll see this More Options link. Click on that, and then you can click and check this Show Recent Announcements on course homepage, and then you can decide how many. Now, if you get too many, it kind of pulls down the homepage, so that isn't really the first thing the students see. So I would suggest probably wanting the most recent 3 announcements to show on the homepage. Then make sure you come down here to Update Course Details. And then when you go back to the home page, if there is an announcement to show, remember we post-dated it, so it's not going to show up until that date has come up because we don't want students to see it until that date. But there's going to be the most 3 recent announcements set up because I went into the settings, course details, and set that up. All right, let's move on. Okay, I'm going to go over here to assignments. Now remember, we did not make that visible to students because for those of you who are using Canvas as an enhancement, you may not want your students to upload assignments. You may not want them to actually partake in any other activities in Canvas other than just the syllabus download, looking at announcements, checking their grades. And if that's the case, you can keep this invisible to students, but visible to you. So here's the assignment area. You usually have this default assignments right here. And you could simply, if you're ready to go and you just want one category or group as they call it, you could just start to add your assignments here. And I'm going to show you how easy that is. So this is your group, and you can come over here to the plus sign and you get a simple dialog box. If you would like to change the type of the assignment, you can. There's different type categories, but I'm going to show you a little bit more in just a minute. But say you wanted to just have them do an assignment that they're going to turn into class, but you would like them to see that the grades are posted in Canvas. You can name it, you can give a due date, say it was due on the 15th, and then you can put the points in and simply save and publish. Make sure you save and publish if you want it to show up in the student's grade book. Now, more options is if you wanted to set up a full assignment where students have parameters, they upload a file, or they type in some text summary in a text box. But if you're just using this as an enhancement, simply add the information to this assignment dialog box and click on Save and Publish. And there you go, you have your first assignment. Now, some of you like to have categories because maybe you weight the areas in your grade book, and you can click on the plus sign for group and you could name this homework. And you don't need to have the percentage if you're not going to be using weighted totals. So I'm just going to click on homework for now. Now you have a new group. So what's unique about this is these groups, or I like to think of them as categories, will show up in the grade book as subtotal columns, which is important in some respects if you set up your grade book that way. And I could come over here and create another one called quizzes and save. So now I have 3 groups that are going to show up in the grade book as subtotal columns. Now, if I want to add some assignments to homework, I'm going to just make sure I go over here to add assignment to homework, the plus sign right across from this group. So I'm going to click on that. Notice that I can actually change this to a quiz. This would be quiz 1, and it's going to be due on the 15th, and it's worth 100 points, and then I save and publish. It's important to save and publish, and this is how you know it's published, if you want it to show up in the gradebook. If you don't want it to show up in the gradebook, then you can keep it unpublished until you're ready. Now here's the quizzes. Oops. Oh, well, this is a good example. If I put it in the wrong category, which I did, I can come and drag and drop it. Also, I can move the categories or groups in a different order. So that's handy. So I want to just make a recommendation here, strong one. If you need to reorganize your gradebook, please do it in this assignment area. Yes, you can do it in the gradebook area, but it keeps it more organized and synchronized. We've had a little bit of a challenge because some instructors changed it in two places and it didn't seem to synchronize. Now, if you change it and reorganize it here, this will be reflected in your gradebook. Okay, so let me just add one more to show you. So this is going to be an assignment, and I'm going to call it Homework 1. The due date will also be on the 15th, and it is going to be 10 points. Save and publish. Okay, so I think you get the picture here. Very easy to set up it right here in the assignment area. And if you just want to use a straight total of assignments, that's fine as well. But some of you, and myself included, like to have subtotal columns. All right, so let's just say I'm done with setting up my assignments for the semester. Remember, you can always come back and continue to add to it, and you have this publish and unpublish icon if you have forgotten to do that. I'm going to come over here to grades now, and let's see what the gradebook looks like. All right, so there we go. We have our quiz, our homework, and our week 1 assignment, and then we have our subtotals. And now we have our totals here. This cogwheel over here will give you a little bit more of some options for you to arrange your columns and also treat some of your cells as 0. I recommend that you always put in something because the running total will not add up if there is nothing here. So this student could, if I just filled this out and that's all it has here, it could have 100% based on that, even if I didn't fill these out. So it's always a good idea to fill these out so everybody has the same total. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh this to show you what this looks like. And we have quizzes 100%, 0%, and 100. And so that's at a percentage. And you can move this to the front if you wanted your totals to be in the front. Okay, so after I refreshed, now it tells me the percentage here of what the students have. So again, you have some options over here that you can check out. And then I also want to show you, if we go back, and here's a little trick. If you go back to this paper looking icon or lined looking icon, show courses navigation menu, you don't have to use the back button, and you can expand your menu and go back to assignments. And then one thing that you might have noticed is that we did have percentages here. So I want to show you how to correct that. You can have a group weighted for each of your groups here if you wanted to. And if you don't, just make sure this is unchecked. And then that percentage will go away and you'll just have straight points. Okay, so let's go back to the gradebook and check that out, see what that looks like. It's very easy to fill out these cells. Now, if you're not so keen on percentages, you can come over here to the total and you can click on switch to points. And students will also be able to see their final grade as points. And I like points because I base my course out of points, but some of you have different ideas and that's fine too. So notice that you've got your total points and then you have your total or subtotal columns that you made in the assignment area. So remember, if you're using this as an enhancement to your class, you will create your grade book columns in the assignment area. I think you'll like it. All right, so now I'm going to go back here, and I also want to go back to the syllabus and show you now what that course summary looks like. So see, now it's listed in the syllabus area. This is a feature that I like because I think students can have a quick view of what's due, especially if you use the due dates. I think it's important. And you all have due dates for your students. I think it's a powerful communication tool, and it will just start to list the different due dates and group the items that go together for that particular group. All right, I do want to take you over here to People. And people is where you're going to see, and your students are going to see, a list of all the students in the class. And this is a powerful communication tool, especially if you start to add things such as discussions and maybe group projects. Students will be able to come here and see who's in their class. Now, they will not see all this sensitive student information. They're simply going to see their name, that they're in the class, and see who's in their class, read a little bit more about them and their biography. Another powerful communication tool that I encourage all my students to participate in, and that comes from the account area that I showed you where the notifications are. So do encourage your students to build a profile. Here is the icing on the cake. And I love creating the home page, and I am going to have another tutorial that will go into more detail for the home page. This is very different for us because in Canvas they give us a lot of creative freedom to create items, pages, home pages in this respect from scratch. So what I have done is I have a couple of things that I have recommended to instructors. But for the quick get up and go, I say, let's just build it in Pages. Now, Pages is available to you, but remember, we didn't make it available to students. If you click on Pages, you can come over here and create a page. And for a quick, again, get up and go, you can create a welcome page just by saying, welcome to class. And I have created some custom homepage banners for some of our instructors. Please let me know if you'd like me to do that. I use a very simple program called canva.com. It's not associated with Canvas, but it is one that we use. We can make banners and we can make different kinds of directional images and GIFs. That's what I recommend. But for now, you want to get this up and going, I know, because you have a lot of other things to do. So what I simply recommend is that you say welcome to class, and then you come over here to images. Now, if you have an image already, that's great. Go ahead and upload it. But if you don't, we have something called Flickr that is a Creative Commons. And say your class was about, let's just say, earth science. I'm going to search for something to do with earth science. And I click on that, and oh, there's so many cool images that you can use and just bring in to your class. And there we go. And so here it is. Welcome to class. I do want to show you something, and it's not going to take you much time if you just do this from the very beginning and get used to creating accessible pages in Canvas. So now that I have this selected, it came into the rich text box editor. It's selected because I know this bounding box is around it. I'm going to go over here to embed image, click on that very quickly, and notice there's an alt text that's already there for me. But if you brought a picture from the outside, maybe something you had on your desktop or your jump drive, you're going to want to put in alt text. This is very important. And one of the reasons is because when students have to be in a class and have a screen reader read back to them what the pictures mean, then it will describe to them this very picture that most of us can see, but some of our students cannot. So then you're going to click on Save and Publish. All right, there you go. Very simple. And I am going to have some more lessons on how to create a very dynamic home page. But if you wanted to get back there and maybe put some more information, you can click on Edit and go back there and just type in some information. And I'm just typing something. You could even let them know you're going to have a quiz on the first day of school. That would be kind of mean, but that's okay. You're giving them a little bit of a heads up. You can also use your announcements for that. So there you go. You can put as much information as you want to in your home page. Now, want you to see these breadcrumbs. We are still in Pages, so watch what happens when I click on Home. Well, it's not there yet, is it? So now what we need to do is we need to go back to Pages, and we need to make sure this is set as the home page, or in this case, use as front page. So click on that. It's going to now say front page. You can go back to the home, and now you can choose that home page. It gives you a lot of options, but some of them just are not very friendly. You want your class to be friendly. As students enter your class for the very first time and continue to enter your class, you want to welcome them. So we're going to click on this radio button and make sure that Welcome to Class is now our home page. All right, there we have it. And if you're really excited about this, you can go to Settings and you can go to Student View and you become a student and you can check out what your students are going to see when they enter your enhancement course. All right. Now, I also want to let you know if you decide that this is something you want to do, and you want some flex activity credit for this, if you let me know that you have set a home page, a syllabus, you have put in some announcements, you have set up your grade book, and it doesn't have to be the entire grade book, but you've got a very good start, let me know and I will provide some flex credit activity directions for you. This is about worth an hour and a half of flex credit. So let me know if you've completed this. Before I sign off, I do want to mention, in order for your students to see the class, you need to make sure that you click on Publish. Publish is going to allow your students to see your course. It will start on the first day of class or the first day of the semester, and then your students will have access to the course 30 days after the end of the semester, unless you make some changes in your settings. All right, take care and thanks again.